We're building tomorrow,
but we're human today,
where technology meets us,
and ideas lead the way. From business to connection, from vision into sound,
we turn the boldest ideas
into something real and loud. The synthetic echo,
where human meets machine.
create it, build it, grow it.
Push beyond what you have seen.
The synthetic echo, the future starts right here.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good day, good night. I have no idea when you're listening to this. I know it's super late because I'm a dad and an old man now, so I'm recording this at 7. I am super. Oh, well, I guess I better welcome you to the show. Welcome to the Synthetic Echo, where we talk about where technology meets humanity. Now, I am very excited today because today we're shaking it up. Today is going to be a bonus episode because there's no way I can contain my excitement about letting this wait till September to release. So we're releasing it today. Today, my guest is a leader in a field you've probably never considered, but one that requires intense dedication, strategic mastery, and a deep understanding of human motivation. Jim O'Hearn, did I say that right? O'Hearn?
You did. You got
Perfect.
it. O'Hearn.
Jim O'Hearn leads a 20-person competitive raid team in an online game, World of Warcraft, competing in events where success and failure are measured in milliseconds. While it might sound like a fun game, it is a high-pressure environment of unpaid volunteers who dedicate hundreds of hours to a common goal. Today, we're going to explore what this fascinating world can teach us about real-world leadership, managing digital native teams, and the surprising ways that our hobbies can forge professional-grade skills. There we go. My only AI thing is done. I'm going to call you Darenas still. This is my raid leader, folks. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I realized I got the Warcraft stuff right here, the 2 figurines in the background. So this very fitting.
Yeah, I have to admit, whenever I have guests on, I definitely always like to look at their backgrounds and see what's going on. So
this is not planned, but this just shows I moved into this house a year ago, and there's a lot of Warcraft collector's editions, and then we got the figurines from BlizzCon 2019.
Nice.
But yeah, no, great intro. I feel very important. I especially like the term unpaid volunteers, which is what
I thought you'd like that one. Every time I
love
say
it. We lovingly my officers over the years have been called the unpaid volunteers because that's essentially what it is. And I also appreciate how you hinted at, it's World of Warcraft. You're playing a game. You're leading a game. It must be a lot of fun, and it is. But that line between fun and extreme struggle is a thin one, so I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's give everybody this is going to sound funny. I've known you now for 3 years. Has it been 2 years?
Sounds about right. Yeah,
sounds about right. I didn't even know your first name was Jim until I told you to get on the show. I had no idea.
I might not even be a real person.
Yeah, fun fact, by the way, him and another guildie got married on the same day, and I thought for sure they married each other, and actually they didn't. They married other people.
Yeah.
I was blown away. On his wedding night, he was raiding with us, or like the day after. I'm like,
pretty soon
I need to tell Zelly to get on.
I think the maybe the even more shocking part of that is not that we had 2 people married on the same day, but we actually have women raiding with us in World of Warcraft. That's the real shocker. But Zelly and I got married same day. Coincidence, I think she told me like a month before, because our weddings kind of lined up, and we'll get into this, but in World of Warcraft, there's seasons, and the end of the season is when things kind of get a little bit hectic and stressful, and both of our weddings just happened to line up at the end of the season. So about a month before hers, or a couple weeks, she said, "Oh yeah, like, hey, by the way, sorry, I'm gonna miss a couple days because I'm getting married on March 1st." And I was like, well, first of all, great, happy for you, congrats. Second of all, I'm also getting married on a March 1st, so it was a happy coincidence.
And then you get people like me just making up rumors and stories, trying to figure out what the truth is. Too afraid to ask.
I mean, the rumors and the drama, talking about the internet, that's one of the many things I try to squash and manage for the team.
I love it. All right, man, let's dive into this, because one of the things some of the listeners to the show may realize, or may have not realized, or my friends, is I do have quite a passionate stance on gaming. Not that I think everybody should be allowed to game 24/7. I think rules should be allowed on it. I think Dare would agree, when you actually look at professional gamers, they're not the what would it be called? The South Park version of a guy sitting in his parents' basement.
Right.
I've noticed lately a lot of the advertisements around working out. A lot of it is about taking breaks, and they force themselves to get proper sleep. And gaming really in today's world is becoming a sense of mastery. And this is why I wanted to bring you in, because you have been our raid leader through thick and thin. Now, first of all, so people, let's just dive into this way. Let's talk about failure so people can understand that we are unpaid volunteers, that we are going in to do this. How many times did we wipe last season on all the bosses put together? Like, how many times did we fail and die if you were just approximate and add up all 8 bosses in the raid?
Probably over 1,000, I'm sure. And maybe to give just a little bit of context. So, so as mentioned, I lead our team in World of Warcraft, and at the highest level, you could think of that as we have 20 to 30 people on any given night. We're on the same team. We each have a variety of roles. It's a video game. You're using your abilities, trying to dodge things. There's a skill element of it where a quick reaction time is helpful. And essentially, we're trying to do the dance of beating certain bosses that are in the game, and those are created by obviously the game developer, and they make at the highest difficulty. Those are challenging, and they get increasingly hard as you move through the raid. So the raid might have 8 to 10 bosses. First boss in the hardest difficulty might take us a couple hours to get down. The last boss in the raid, I think the last boss of the last season we spent 50 to 100 hours before we finally got it down. And that is 50 to 100 hours, probably closer to 50, but say 50 to 100 hours every night. You need 20 people. So there's a lot there, but essentially, yeah, you could spend close to 100 hours wiping on a boss for our group, just failing over and over, as you said.
And there's a degree of elements here. Like, this isn't like a job per se where people are coming here and getting paid and they're going to just suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
This is, first of all, the degree we do this at, there's almost no room for mistake. If one person messes up, what happens?
Yep. That's the end of it. You start over again.
Yeah, one mess up, start out. Like, it's a lot of pressure on a per person basis. And when you look at mastery, like, so people understand, how does a boss fight? Like, let's say you take the very first poll to the 400th poll. How do you typically see it progress in that way? Like, how from bad to good, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe just talking about the hardest boss, because that's really where
we'll the hardest part. Yeah,
the tenacity and the stress and that spectrum of, oh yeah, this is the early season, super excited to play, and everyone wants to be in, and then week after week you kind of slowly turn to, this is getting more stressful, this is becoming more of a job that I'm not paid to do. And because there are 20 plus other people, as you said, for the last boss, there's certain mechanics where if one person messes up, all right, you're starting over again. Boss fight might be 10 minutes. So starting out, you're going to fail in the first 30 seconds. All right, and we messed it up. Takes us a little bit of time. We get the first part of the dance down. And I kind of compare it to almost learning a musical instrument, where when you first start out, you have no idea what you're doing. Eventually, you get the pattern down and you get better and you do that. Now, imagine you're doing that with 20 other people, and anytime anyone messes up, you have to start over again. So what inevitably happens is 19 people learn to do the thing, and there's one person who hasn't gotten it yet. And that person changes poll to poll, night to night. People get tired, people, whatever happens. So it starts out, first 30 seconds, you learn that part, you get better at it, and then you get to the next kind of wall in the fight, and there's a new combination of mechanics and things you have to deal with. Generally, people are okay failing on the new thing. Where the struggle really sets in is, okay, we've done this 300 times. We've seen the first part of this boss 300 times. I figured, it's like I figured it out in the first 20 polls. 300 polls in, one of the other 19 people messes up, you have to start over again. That you can feel the air leave. You're not even in a room because on the internet, but you could just the silence that'll fill when when things are not going well, when someone is struggling on step 1 of the 20-step process that you need. So the further you get on these hardest bosses, you get better at the early steps, but it's never there's no checkpoint. It's not, we beat that, we're done with that forever. It's, we beat that, and all right, now that means we get past it, more than 50% of the time. And part of the team's job is to understand and give people grace that people have off nights, people make mistakes. That's just a part of what we do. And as the leader, it's part of your job to keep things moving. Sometimes you make a mistake and there's something to learn from it. Okay, something happened. What happened there? Oh, something we didn't think of. Let's talk about that. But sometimes it's just, oh, what happened? Yeah, I got the thing. I didn't realize it. I messed up. I know what to do. It was just a brain fart.
I did
Let's
notice a
move
big
on.
arrow over my head.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thing, and I was thinking about something else. I zoned out. Let's move on. And you got to figure out, all right, when is it worth focusing on that and seeing if there's something to do there and adjust versus, that's just a fluke. Let's pull again. And so part of the thing for us is, so we are a group that has and tries to complete the raid on the hardest difficulty. We also are a group that only raids 6 hours a week. And of the raid teams that try to achieve what's called cutting edge or the hardest difficulty, 6 is on the very low end. There's some crazy guilds, like a handful, that do like 4 hours a week. But for the most part, you're talking about 9-10 hours plus a week. Because we only do 6 hours a week, and because a lot of us are relatively older with jobs and kids and responsibilities, it's super important that for those 6 hours a week, we really maximize the efficiency there. We can't waste time talking about nonsense or arguing, or like what I just said, someone made a mistake in the moment. You got to make the call. Okay, is it worth it for us to spend a minute or two talking about what happened? Or is it better to just do the next poll? Because sometimes the poll could be 2 minutes. So if you spend 2 minutes arguing and people giving suggestions that aren't helpful, you just wasted 2 minutes. And time is of the essence when you only raid 6 hours a week like us.
And this is a balancing act. Like, I'm very thankful that it's never been me who's had a bad night and died a whole lot. But I know
same.
it's always been
I never make
somebody else.
mistakes.
Yeah. Now, it is a bit of a balancing act, because jokes aside, I know I've had off nights where it's just for some reason something isn't clicking, my awareness isn't there, so I'll die repetitively, and that just happens to be my off night. And then the next night I have another off night. So just so viewers understand, what kind of tools are we using? Because I know in the back end, there's a difference to tell between one person who's constantly failing and not getting it through the tools that we have versus someone just having an off night. So what does that look like as a leader on the back end, analyzing what those tools are?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, during the 6 hours a week that we're raiding, we really try to spend as much time as possible actually raiding, meaning actively fighting the boss. So in this game, what we call when you pull the boss, that's when you're actually doing the fight. And then there's some downtime where you're just in the game world, but you're just kind of waiting in front of the boss and not doing anything. So we really try to maximize that uptime of boss time pulled, so we can actually just get in there. Like I said, it's kind of like an instrument, learn the dance, get the muscle memory, and then go. But outside that, there's a lot of things you can look at. There's certain websites and tools that pull statistics. Thankfully, we can record things. So the main reason that I actually started streaming and recording myself was just, all right, like let's just have a view of things that I can look at afterwards. Because there's certain things that the numerical tools and websites can tell you around, all right, how much numerical output did you do? And that's useful. How much did someone die? When did they die? That's all in there. But sometimes it's really helpful to just see, like, all right, let me go back and look at this. Like, what actually happened? Can go back, review it real quick. So you do that, you make the judgment call. And then in terms of, as you mentioned, sometimes people just have an off night. And one element we haven't really talked about is at the highest level, you literally can only bring in 20 people. The game won't let you have more. You can technically have less, but the difficulty is built for 20 people. So for the most part, if you go in with less than 20, you don't really have a chance. So you kind of need 20 exactly. And again, because we're adults with a lot of adults with families and kids, inevitably there's vacations, people miss time. So you need a team of 25-ish just to have that hope of actually having enough people each week, which also inevitably means if you have 25 people and you can only bring in 20, which 5 are you sitting? And for me, that's always just been a combination of the big three are attendance, attitude, and performance. Attendance, obviously, if you're not showing consistently, that's not going to be helpful for us. You haven't learned the dance. Attitude for me is I'd probably prioritize that more than most raid leaders at this level. Part of it's probably just my age and my experience. I have no interest in playing with people with bad attitudes. I don't care how good they are at the game. I've been on the internet for decades, and I've absorbed so much of the negativity, and I've learned how to shield it away. That I will
Well,
take the person who is just good enough to beat the content with a great attitude over the person who is top X%, but is just a huge turd that no one likes.
even with that too, though, like that's just like a job. Like at some
Yep.
point, you want to enjoy your job, and we all have a passion to do this at a high level.
Yeah.
Again, though, we're also showing up. Like one of the things I love about the leadership style that I've observed with you is you do keep a good group all the time. I think
Yeah.
one of the things I love about the way you operate your raid team versus other ones that I've been on is exactly that. You don't allow one good player with a bad attitude to spoil, because then you're going to lose 19 other players or 18 other players who are not having fun. So I think that's I think not just in Warcraft as we talk about it, but yet in life, in leadership, in jobs, in businesses, that is a very underrated conversation to have.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Not near enough.
agree 1,000%. And some of that comes down to goals, like you said. And a lot of it, I think, is just related to long-term versus short-term goals. If the fate of the universe depended on our team killing a boss tonight or on whatever night we're on, then all right, yeah, sure, bring in the super performer who's a huge turd that everyone hates.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the fate of the universe doesn't depend on us killing the boss tonight. For me, my goal is more, how can I build a team and have fun playing the game? So for the long term, it's better to have the good attitudes, the pleasant experience. People can learn the game. Like, yeah, sure, there's people who are better and worse naturally, and some people pick things up quicker. And some people with a great attitude are never going to reach the performance level of super high performers. That's fine. We don't need to all be. There's only a certain threshold you need to get above to do what we're doing. We're not, we don't need to be the best player in the world. So the good attitude helps keep that group together. Exactly like you said. What have been some of the things that you've noticed, maybe some specific things that you've noticed previous leaders getting wrong, where you look at it and think like, oh, that's just not how you're supposed to do this?
Well, like, are you talking about like in a skill set or in a leadership side?
Either, just something that either within the game on a raid team or just in general, where whoever's leading it makes a call or does something that just kind of killed the long-term health of the group.
So it's interesting because like so many other leadership things in life, a good player doesn't necessarily make a good leader. And I've seen this in my real estate career, where a good realtor doesn't necessarily make a good leader, a good team leader. Just because they can sell 100 homes doesn't mean they're good at managing people. I've seen this in so many careers. So when I think there's a couple of things I see. Number one, a lot of times that the leader is not willing to stand up to toxicity quick enough. That's been one major mistake. I was with a prior raid team where just when one person entered the comms, it's just you could feel the whole attitude changed. And our constant comment afterwards, it was a really weird guy, and it was like, well, I didn't mean to get shown up and get sexually harassed today, but that just happened, right? It was just weird. And ironically, what happened is 4 or 5 people quit the team, pretty much destroying it. And then the next day, that guy did, right? And it's like, man, if you just would have listened to us ages ago. So good player, though. That was always the excuse, good numbers. I think the other thing, sorry.
I was going to say, I was having a conversation with someone the other day about a similar topic where and so just for context, I have a job. I'm I'm an actuary. I work in corporate strategy, so I have a very standard kind of corporate job as well. And I was talking with someone, and they told a similar story where there was someone just for a variety of reasons just wasn't meshing, and kind of the attitude and the style of working was just it it drove someone else on the team away that would not have left if
Yeah.
not for that person being there. And then a couple months after, that other person left as well. And you're like, oh, like why couldn't the problem person have left first so we could have kept the person that was doing a great job? And yeah, what you said about not letting essentially not ignoring your problems.
Hmm.
Part of leading in general is paying attention and just noticing what's going on. And when you notice problems, when you notice little problems, it's better to deal with them while they're small problems, because if you don't, they will probably grow into bigger problems, which will be harder to deal with. And then if you keep ignoring it, it becomes out of control and just gets worse
Yeah.
and worse.
And I think the other big thing that kind of plays a role into this is a big mistake I've seen is a lot of times leaders or raid leaders have brought in their friends. And again, their friends are good statistically. But we go into an attitude conversation or they get hissy fits and they leave. When you have something as I don't feel like something as Warcraft is that straightforward, right? I don't think the good players are always at the top in the numbers. Good players will often limit their deaths, limit what they do. Like obviously this tier, I tried healing, and one of the things that drove me nuts is the class that I healed at wasn't a all the time healing class. It was more of a spot healing class. So what I was always curious about is if you were to take this segment and bust it right down, would have I been great in that segment, even though the overall number wasn't great, right? And that's one thing I do appreciate about our team is I don't know if you guys actually go that in depth, but I've seen us go that in depth in the other numbers to make sure we get components of it.
Yeah.
But going back to this friend issue, I think a lot of times leaders are comfortable with their friends because they can talk to their friends, and they'll turn a blind eye to either the toxicity or the bad attitude because of the numbers and because they can deal with them in a comfort level. And it sounds weird. I think that's why top leaders aren't supposed to always have good friends per se. Like you can have friends like this, but the type of friends you have to have is I might be opposed, which I've been vocal if you've sat me before, right? But that's a part of a passion of the game. That's not a reflection of you. That's not a reflection of our friendship. That's a reflection of I want to learn. I want to be in there for this, right? Get me in there. And then I just get over it and I bring a great attitude the next time, right? Where that's not always the case with a lot of times. I think if leaders have a person, if they sit that they know they're not going to be friends, ironically, that's the kind of person they just have to get rid of right away because it's just going to create problems.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny the comment around being a leader versus having, friends on your team. I think at work, at a more typical job, I think it's better to have more of a line between, all right, you're my direct reports, you're on my team, versus friends. You want to be pretty careful about that. It doesn't mean you can't, be open and honest and joke around with your team, but some level of respecting the roles is important there. That's similarly important with what we do in the rating, but I it's less of a line for me in rating because again, it's a game. It should be fun. Like if it ever got to the point where I viewed, all right, I have 25, a team of 25 that are my direct reports on this, and I can't really be fully friends with any of them, like that's just not what I want to do. Versus a job, like, if I fight a team of a dozen people, oh yeah, none of these people are gonna, at least for now, while they're on my team, there's a little bit more of a separation there versus on the raid team where it's like, I am, quote, the leader, but at the same time, it's a game. We're here having fun. I'm only a leader in the sense that the team thinks that my ideas are good ideas. Because like we said earlier, nobody's getting paid. So if I all of a sudden said, all right, guys, next tier, here's the plan. I have this vision and you all need to do these things because I'm the leader. People don't want to do it. They just, they just leave.
Let's find someone else to go.
Like you could take the example of so getting a little in the weeds, but
Yeah.
there's Mythic Plus. There's different game modes within World of Warcraft, and they are ways that you can show your kind of skill, kind of commitment to getting better. Like you can challenge yourself, and there's a real objective way to see, all right, I'm doing this. This is hard. Not everyone can do this on the team, or they haven't done it yet.
Right.
Like you're challenging yourself. And I could say, all right, to be eligible for the things that you want in the raid for the loot, you're going to be required to be X Mythic Plus rating, and I could just make that high. Like, well, all right, there's a couple people on the team that've done this.
That is what you do.
Clearly, it's doable. It should be doable. Like, if you're not good enough to do this, you shouldn't be rating with us. I could do that, but if I set that bar too high, then people leave because that's not where they are. So, as the leader, you need to have the vision. You need to be firm in your decisions, but you also especially with this where again it's virtual. I'm not a puppeteer. I don't have strings. Everyone has more than enough free will. You could quite literally quit the team and never speak to me again, and I have no way to ever reach you. Like I have literally no power in that sense over you other than my main power is influence. I have some ideas. If you think these are good ideas that benefit you, you will follow them. If you don't, you will ignore them. It's as simple as that. So I find that very interesting because unlike work, where again, I've had teams of a dozen people, like, all right, I'm the boss, like you're getting paid by the company. I control your year-end rating. Like there's some limits obviously, but if I think you're not doing a good job, I could get you fired and then you'd lose your money. So there's a very different dynamic there with that versus, hey, we're playing this game together. I have some ideas of how we could do this. And some of the things that I want you to do are going to annoy you, like M plus. Like, all right, we got some rank requirements. You got to do this. You got to do that. Oh, they've been raised. You're below the threshold, so you're going to have to do this thing you probably don't want to do, or you're going to, get a little bit punished on some of our incentives. That's not fun. I just sent a message the other day. I know for a fact that at least some people are like, oh my god, I can't believe you raised the requirements on this. But part of the challenge is how do you calibrate that to not do it too high, where again you lose people, you go beyond what the group is willing to do. But the other risk is similar to what you said earlier, where all right, we're just not gonna raise it at all because I don't want to offend anyone. I want everyone to be happy. That's similar to the I have a problem, I'm going to avoid it versus tackling it head on.
So I have a hunch you have thought about this part, but maybe you haven't. But I have a hunch you have. Really, what we're talking about, because we don't have a financial incentive to do this. This is just a love for the game. The reality is, I can quit. I can go find other people to do this with. How much do you think about building culture on the team? And what does that look like? Because what you're talking about right now is you're setting a culture of standard. You're setting a culture of success that if somebody doesn't feel comfortable in that, they probably don't want to be a part of that culture. That's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah, it's everything, especially at this point. So maybe a quick history. I've been playing this stupid game since 2005. Very casually. I was in college, like summer break, came home, played it. Then over the years, as I was in college and doing my career, I was again mentioned I'm an actuary. Those exams are not easy. It's a lot of study time, so I didn't have a ton of time. But for 15-ish years, I would play this game super casually. And then in about 2020, I just randomly was in a team and they were raiding, and I was like, all right, it's a social raid. I joined. It was a lot of fun. Fast forward, all right, this should be fun. Let's try the harder difficulty. No one wanted to do it, so I let it. Joined another team that was a little more advanced, and the leadership there did a lot of things well, but I would categorize it as they did a lot of game leader things well. Like the things with specific to the game, they were pretty good at. All right, here's our strategy for the boss. Here's the classes that this and that, and all of the Warcraft very tactical things they were good at. They were so lacking on the people leadership side of things, where after that I was like, all right, I'm going to just give this a shot again and we'll see what we can do. And then over the years went from essentially the early bottom of the barrel team to where we are now, which is, we're not world first amazing esports players, but it is for a group that has so many people, again, with full-time jobs and families and kids and this and that, a very successful group. And we achieved that goal of killing the final boss, getting cutting edge. for the first time a year or so ago, and then we did it the season after, and that's great. Especially since we achieved that goal, culture's always been important, but I would say now culture is the number one goal. It's if we get cutting edge, beat the final boss, great. Happy. That's what most, if not all, the members of the team want. Some want it more than others. Some people on the team are like, I will raid every day for the next 2 weeks to do this. Most people aren't. They're like, I'm good with my 2 days a week, which is another interesting dynamic. But
Yeah.
the culture is everything. So I would say at this point, my goal is I want to continue to facilitate the culture we have, the team we have, and build a group of people that like pushing themselves in games that we all actually want to play the game with. Meaning, here's someone I want to play with, not because they're very good and I think they will help me achieve this goal within the game. Like, it's like making a deal with the devil. Like, all right, I need this high Mythic Plus key time, so I'm gonna group up with this person that I hate, but is very good. I want the group of people who are happy to play with each other. Like, all right, this is just going to be fun. So facilitating that culture, keeping people together, and continuing to nudge a little bit on the performance. Like, let's get more efficient. Let's do that. If we could get cutting edge with less time, that's great. But I don't view a season where we're unable to get cutting edge as a major failure. It's one box we didn't check or won't check, but how is the team like do that? How is that going? How's the culture going? How's the community?
Well, how have you seen that shift? Because cat's out of the bag, folks. We're probably not going to get cutting edge this year or this season.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Considering we don't have it now, and we're not rating until the next season now.
Right.
But having said that, though, like sometimes I think about this as like achieving a sales goal or a team achieving something, doing it well because we did it now a few times in a row, and then all of a sudden now we didn't do it. How has that been to manage? Because it's almost like we created a new expectation, and it is within human nature. I'll admit I've been stuck in this bandwagon before. We naturally try to find someone to blame when I think almost everybody thinks they're the best at the game.
Yeah.
And it's always
I know I'm
somebody
the best
else's
at the game.
fault. Well, yeah, but you clearly are. You died less this year than almost anybody else.
That's true. Yeah. It turns out if you have a baby and you just don't play as much, you get very few deaths. Yeah.
So how is that being managed? Like, there's now a new expectation. People love to blame. I'm sure you're probably getting messages that so and so need to be kicked out or this or that. Who's that stupid priest guy that replaced you? Come back.
When they're talking about a stupid priest, that's usually talking about me, though. So
no. Man, you took like 6 weeks off, and you're still beating me. So not that I'm jelly or anything. No, but like seriously, how has managing the culture changed since then, or with?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right that well, we got cutting edge, so now we're a cutting edge guild, and we have. I don't remember if it was the season we got cutting edge or the one before, but since I started leading in 2020, 2021-ish, so much of that was just recruiting. Like so much part of it is we just need like 25-ish people, so we have enough people every week. So I would send hundreds of messages, like basically cold calling people on recruiting websites and Discords. And then a couple seasons ago, we just had enough of a core team with not a lot of turnover, which was great. And we would just naturally get friends of friends joining. So I haven't had to recruit for a little while. And certainly after we got our first cutting edge, it was even more true because, like you said, it's like, all right, well, we got cutting edge. Now we're a cutting edge group. People want cutting edge. So I'm going to join the cutting edge team. Why would I join a team that doesn't have cutting edge if I could join a team that already does? So it's kind of like now that you're at this level, like, oh, now I want in versus before, like, I don't want to help you get there, but I want to be there. So that part of it's definitely true. We had some people join, some of them still around, some not. That's just the way any new recruit, it's like, flip a coin. Will they be here in a month? I don't know. Will they even be here at the start of the season? So like probably not, just because people are like, oh yeah, I can't wait to join. It's kind of like, you ever try to organize a group trip with your friends where it's like, oh, we should all go on a trip. And you're like, oh, that sounds great. And then 2 weeks later, it's like nobody can make it and the trip is canceled.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point around the culture change and the expectation change, definitely that's partially true. I think it's also partially true the opposite way, where for a lot of people, that was their first cutting edge, and it's like, all right, well, now I got cutting edge. So it's like, do I care as much about the second or third cutting edge as I do about the first or second? Like not really. Like you can have the Tom Brady mentality of, oh, what's your favorite Super Bowl? Oh, the next one. It's like, all right, what's your favorite cutting edge? The next one. And that's true to some degree. I think it's good to continue to look toward the future, because like any accomplishment, you achieve it, and then 2 minutes later you're like, all right, well, that was fun. Now I'm back to my normal miserable self, so I need the next thing to make me happy.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think with the current team, I genuinely think that of the people we have now, more people are okay with us taking this next week off and just chilling out until next season. Like the two options, again, maybe to take it a level up for everyone. So if we go back 2 or 3 weeks ago, we don't know when the end of the season is because the game developer hasn't told us yet, and it's kind of speculation, but you don't really know. So we don't know, given how much progress we'd made on the final boss, given how much time is left. It's kind of a coin flip if we really went all in, if we'd be able to do it. Maybe a week later, they announce the end of the season. With that, it's it's a sub 50% chance, maybe sub 25%. Pretty unlikely that we would get the kill, unless we really went all in and added extra days and spent more of our time doing it. Some members of the team absolutely wanted to do that, as I think you're well aware, but I would say most did not, which again implies, all right, I think we're good not always getting this. Our goal is not cutting edge at any cost. It's, can't speak for everyone, but in my view, the goal is we're a 6-hour-a-week team. We want to get cutting edge. We want a good group of people. We want good attitudes. We want to build the culture, build the community. And let's do what we can to improve. Like I'm big on that. Let's just if everyone gets a little bit better, we're going to kill bosses faster.
Yeah.
We're going to kill bosses sooner.
And
I'm on board with that. I'm less okay with at this point, especially because we already did it. I don't want to raid 4 or 5 days a week the last week or two of the season. For the first time, like, all right, we're super close. Let's all buckle up and do it. I think we'll never know. It's the counterfactual. Had I said to the team, all right, guys, we're going to raid every night. Let me know when you're in or you're out. Like, maybe there's a world where we ended up with 20 people, but there might also be a world where a couple people are like, you know what, like, I'm kind of burnt out on this. This is it for me. So yeah, I think that's another leadership choice. Do you how do you decide when to push the team versus take a step back and give people a break?
Well, I think something you do really well, and
let's talk more about that. Things I do really well.
Yeah, let's
focus all on that.
You do set that direction though, and you're right. You may not be speaking for everybody yet. That's one thing I like is as long as expectations are clear. So now when I know when I show up, I know in a season that, hey, at the end of it, we may or may not get this. That's the expectation. And if we're not like this time, you just knew we weren't close. I think we would have needed far more time. You just knew, not like the other previous ones where it was like, hey, we pushed it and not gotten it. We pushed it and have gotten it. Right.
Yep.
The other interesting thing too, before we kind of go on to the next topic, is a part of setting that goal is very strict. 11:30 is your done time, and nothing after that. We've been very, very close. And you actually talk about things I've seen leaders do wrong. That's actually one of the things I've seen a lot of leaders do wrong. Is you're close and you push people when they're tired. Sure, maybe you get it, maybe you don't, but not. I don't know. The risk of the odds of getting it do not outweigh what happens if you don't. Right.
Exactly.
So
part of that, like you said, is it's expectations and it's honesty. It's if you tell the team, so for everyone's benefit, we raid 8:30 to 11:30 Tuesday and Thursday Eastern time, the best time zone, at night. And generally that means we're not starting a boss after 11:30, almost ever. For other teams, as you mentioned, they might say, all right, we're 8:30 to 11:30. And then in reality, it's like, oh, well, I want to keep playing. So let's go again. Like the raid leader might do that. So by doing that, you're telling your team, all right, you can't trust me. Like that's not a good place to be. Nobody's perfect, but I would hope that the team trusts me when I say something, meaning if I say something, they know that actually mean it, and they don't have to really think of, all right, well, is this a lie or is this honesty? I think that's a huge part of leadership.
So I really hope anybody who suffered through this, who does not love video games the way we do, but is here to learn about leadership, really listens to that point.
Yeah.
When you say you're going to start a meeting at 7 and other people are late and you started at 7:05, you're pissing off the good people. You're not doing anything good. I'll tell you, that was one of my biggest pet peeves because I hate being late for things. And when people wait for freeloaders, for bloody late people, it just drives you nuts. So, and that trust, what you brought into it, is so critical, because even in something like a game and in real life, you have to trust the leaders around you. If you do not trust the leaders around you, there's almost really no point of even having them as a leader. And these small things that we do. I remember a leader one time telling me, saying, I'm okay if I'm late, but the second, Nathan, you tell me that it interfered with you and you don't look down on me for it, I will never be late again.
Yeah.
And that's true. I told him flat out, I do not respect it. I do not respect people who are late. So I really want to say kudos to that side. We touched on prep, and this is another thing, because I think in real life, as Synthetic Echo is up and running my company, as I've trained real estate agents, one of the things that do drive me nuts, in real estate, we always talk about scripting, script, learn what to say. And no matter how critical people understood it was, people would never do it. That was our prep in real estate. If you want to be as efficient, if you're taking 6 hours to hit this goal, what does realistic prep from the team do? So now let's step away from the leadership. What does the team need to do to be a great asset to that team? And what does their prep look like?
Yeah, it's a good question, and there's a part of it that falls on the leadership and a part of it that falls on the team, exactly like you said. I think part of something a good team can do just in any situation is really try to anticipate what you think the leader would want. Hopefully you're in a situation where your leadership is clear and they set clear expectations, and like we just said, they actually are honest about those and hold you to them. That's a great situation to be in. If you're there, you do that and you're doing great. Sometimes you're just not going to be in that situation, and your leadership is going to be just absent or wrong or lacking in whatever area. So I would just encourage everyone to take a little bit of the ownership mentality of, even though I haven't been asked to do something, let me take a little bit of time to think about, all right, what do I think? What should I do? Like, if someone were to ask me, oh, what did you do in that situation that was useful? If your answer is, well, I don't know, no one told me to do anything, so I didn't do anything. It's not a really compelling answer. So yeah, it's really just think about it and try to be helpful.
Why do I have the feeling the next time I die, do something stupid, you're gonna ask me that? So, Suka, what did you do in that scenario that you found yourself as helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, to wrap this up, how is this being applied now to real life? Like, we've talked a lot about leadership, we've connected it a lot to your job, but the reality is, these are skill sets. Like, if you think about, you don't learn these skill sets on a job, these form of leaderships. If you do, it's a pretty poor job that put you, or a boss that put you into leadership. How have these things helped you affect your everyday life? How does it affect, I know you're a new dad. How does it affect being a dad? How does it affect being a new husband? How does it affect you being a leader at work in the positive ways? How has the gaming world positively affected your life?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love games. I think similar to you, and I see your book in the back there. Why won't he log off, or why won't he just stop? What's the exact name?
Now, here.
Why won't he just log off?
I almost refuse to do actual just no, like, oh no, oh look, yeah. Available on Amazon.
That is that's a question I'm sure that my parents asked many times when I was younger. Games have always been a huge part of my life. Like you hinted at earlier, or said earlier, it's probably not the best thing to spend your entire life playing games. There can be a bit of escapism, and there could be issues, but like any hobby, there's good balance there. So I've loved games my whole life, and specifically with the game that we play, the team element of it, playing with other people, like I said, building a community. It's unbelievably rewarding to do challenging things with other people and work together to overcome it. Like, you were there last year at the end of it. Like, how amazing was when we finally got the kill on the final boss of the last tier. Like I've had
well, the fact that we were streamed to the world on one of the most popular websites without any of us really knowing it, that was so crazy.
Down to the wire, and truly, honestly, none of us knew, all right, are we actually going to do this tonight? Like, it was the final night. We were in literally our final hour. We've been doing it for 50 to 100 hours, not in that night, but over the course of a couple weeks. So it's all of that stress and frustration and hundreds of hours of watching someone else screw up after 8 minutes, when you're like, I know what I need to do. I feel like I've known this for 2 weeks at this point, and we're just sitting here and you're struggling getting through that. And then finally, when it all comes together, it's just, again, I've had a very fortunate life. I have a good job. I have a wife. I have a kid. A lot of good moments in my life, but I have the video of me when we killed the boss, and like that joy, the scream, like there's few things in the last, if I think of the last, decade of my life, it sounds silly to say it, but that burst of excitement there, it's larger and more rare than you'd think, given everything else I have in my life. Like it's funny how that could all come together. So yeah, it's the struggle that builds up to that, the ultimate moment again, where you come together with a team and your friends and you pull together. Yeah, and then in terms of the leadership, like we hinted at a little bit earlier, these are unpaid volunteers. Just the tongue-in-cheek. People can leave; they can vote with their feet. If you kind of become a little bit of a tyrant, and you're like, you know what, like I think I'm doing a really good job, and here's the idea, and I know what's best, and you're all going to do exactly what I say because I'm the leader. Like that's not going to work in a real job, and it's going to work a million times less in a situation where you have no power, literally are thousands of miles away from someone. So doing this has taught me how to really think about, all right, here's what I would love for most of the members of the team to do. How can I get them there? I can't just say, hey, you should do this because it's a good idea. Like what are the incentives? What's, if I think about it from their perspective, like, all right, why haven't they been doing this? Like, what are they missing? One of the funny terms is like, is this a skill issue or is this a will issue? Like, can they not do it or they just not want to do it? And depending on which one of those it is at the moment, there's different approaches you can take. And just this combined with the more traditional leadership I've done at my very standard corporate job, they feed together. There's a lot of similarities. That idea of there's something going on that's not great, and it would be really nice if I could just ignore this and pretend that it wasn't happening. That temptation is always there. It's a lot easier to just say, you know what, maybe it'll sort itself out. It's always good to deal with that. So bringing all that together, bringing it into the corporate, the business world, it's been a blast. And I again, you learn a lot of things, to say it for the millionth time, when you really have no control over someone and they're just doing it because they truly think that you have some good ideas. It's like that idea of, I'm going to build followership. Like people think I have a good idea, they're going to follow. If not, if I ever make too many mistakes, like, they're out, and they can do that at any point. So I'm really happy that for the most part, we've had a pretty consistent team. People seem to enjoy it. And again, my goal, let's get a good culture. Let's get a good community. Because that's life, that's how do you want to spend your time? You want to spend it with people you enjoy.
I love it too when you foster that. And I think about this in the workplace too, how awesome it would be is you have 20 individuals. Not everybody's going to like everybody. Not everybody's going to love everybody.
No, they do not.
By any means.
I can confirm that.
Now I kind of want to see those DMs.
Yeah.
Having said that, I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for myself. I know I've been with raid teams before with people that just drive me up the wall. And when a personal thing happens in their life, I still want to be there for them. Right. And this is another really cool thing that gets developed through this, that when I look at my teams that I want to develop at my job, is exactly that. Like when life happens, we still want to support each other.
Yep.
I might think they're still relatively not intelligent in the game, but that doesn't mean they're not humans. There's almost like a brother and sisterhood that happens. So I really hope to the people listening, that you get the intent out of this. That this isn't really just like, it's obviously about gaming. I love chatting about Warcraft. I love chatting about leadership, but
Yeah.
I'm really hoping people see how much deeper this leadership really is. And there's actually a skill set. If you took this out, like if you took this leadership skill set that Dare's talking about and put it into your business, your team at your company, you focused on building a winning culture over whoever just had the most sales, you might be amazed what would happen and how things would transform. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, 100%. And to just to get back to the point of the when people don't get along, genuinely, thankfully, right? Like especially this season, like for the most part, everyone's doing great, but certainly over the last 5 or 6 years, there have been some personality conflicts. Even as the leader, there's again both in game and at my job, I have had team members who love me and think I'm the best thing in the world, and I've had team members who think that I am a very bad manager, and and vice versa. I've had team members who I think are amazing; they do a great job, and other ones who, for whatever reason, they just weren't working out.
and we don't want to mention any names, Julie. No, I have no idea. I really hope there's not a Julie on your team.
there's not. Thankfully, I've never worked with a Julie.
Good.
I'm gonna go back and think. If I forgot a Julie, that means you weren't doing a bad job. But yeah. But yeah, I really like the idea that you mentioned of, even if someone is not doing a great job or they're just not being, even if they're just kind of being mean, or it's like, wow, that's not a helpful, like that person is not being helpful right now. They're kind of being a little bit toxic. They're being a bad influence. Again, it's good to address that. You don't want to ignore it because it could get worse. But at the same time, it's also good to think, all right, they are a person. Who knows what's going on in their life? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're having a bad year. Maybe they've had a bad decade.
Right.
So it's not ignoring it and saying, well, they're probably having a bad day, so I'm not going to do anything. But it's also not, wow, that's a terrible person. I'm going to punish them, and they're going to learn from me because I know what's right. It's a little bit of balance of, all right, there's a problem. How do I deal with it? But how do I also recognize the truth, which is I don't know their full story. I don't need to know their full story. I need to figure out what I can do to influence them in the right direction that is going to be productive. It doesn't mean you're going to fix the problem completely, or fix them certainly, but you can nudge it in the right direction. You can also nudge it in the wrong direction. So again, be humble. Don't assume you have all the answers because you probably don't. Nor does anyone. So it's part of the reason a team is so important.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, if anybody out there listening, I do have this ready. Let's see here. Aha.
I love it.
That is where you can support Dare in all the adventures. You can actually take a look at his leadership style. I would highly recommend just taking some time, watch the complexity. And if you are a parent listening to this, I know this isn't about my log off book, but if you are a parent listening to this, just take a look at where we are. Maybe we're not the best examples in the world, but I'm going to use us anyways. I would say we're both relatively successful. We have happy families. We have kids. We have all the things that are important, and we have people that stay with us. So, and we all played video games in our parents' basement when we were younger for probably way too much and way too long. So your kid is not, their life isn't over, and there's some great life lessons they can learn from it. Final thought, man. I leave it with all my guests. Do you want to leave everybody with one final thought other than subscribe to your show so you can make millions?
Yeah, subscribe to the Darenas TV. So we got Twitch. Also, a lot of funny clips on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And again, it's all Darenas TV, as you can see there at the bottom. I would echo the point you just made. Games they're a hobby. If you're a parent listening, like, oh my God, my son or daughter, probably son, but some daughters too, is just playing way too many damn video games. How do I get them to stop? Again, there might be something there. Maybe there is all right, it'd be good for him to have some other hobbies. It's good to be physically active. I run a ton. I currently am running 20, 30 miles a week. Highly recommend exercise. That's super good. So some of that is probably a good thing to make sure they're healthy, but there is a lot of good that can come out of gaming. You can learn a lot. It's like anything else. It's so especially if you don't understand it, if you aren't someone who plays games yourself, there are, as mentioned, a lot of normal people, a lot of good people who do this. It's not a disaster. It can be a lot of fun. You can make a lot of good friends. You can learn a lot. Especially when I was younger, my reading ability probably went up 1,000,000% from all the games I played, all the RPGs, a lot of text. So if it wasn't for some of those games, I probably wouldn't even know how to read at this point. So yeah, stick with it, and it's fun. So just treat it as a
Awesome.
hobby. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on. And again, as leadership, just be honest. Don't ignore your problems. Try to, again, don't dictate. You're not the tyrant. If you need to set some rules, think about, all right, why would someone actually want to follow these if they didn't have to? Like, and if you can't think of why someone else would follow your rules if they didn't have to, maybe you want to rethink the rules to something that is mutually beneficial. But
Awesome,
thanks
man. Well,
again. Great conversation.
I've really appreciated this. I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to play the outro music, and then, yeah, I'm sure I'll probably just see you in game in 5 minutes. And my only final advice is if you ever have someone by the name of Holy Judge Moot apply to your guild, say no.
We're building tomorrow,
But we're human today,
where technology meets us.
and ideas lead the way. From business to connection, from vision into
We
sound,
turn the boldest ideas,
into something real and loud. The synthetic echo,
where human meets machine.
create it, build it, grow
Push
it.
beyond what you have seen.
The synthetic echo, the future starts right here.